Token Travelers podcast right now. We have Waleed as a guest, which I'm really excited about because I actually stumbled across you by browsing Object. Then I followed you on Twitter, and I saw that you were involved in a gallery at NFT NYC. I saw like a video that you did with Brovo and Bryony, and it was just like really fun. You know, it seems like a lot of my mutual friends on Twitter had already known you, and thought I was like silly. And I was like, "Have you guys seen this guy Waleed?" You know, and then they're just acting like it was the most ridiculous question ever. Of course, we've seen Waleed. Then I've seen you do collaborations with Basil, Modern Vintage Photography. He's a platinum printer, and like seen some of your work for like magazines, your commentaries as sets, your like quote unquote trash art on objects, right? Like all of it has just been super fascinating to me. So I'm really glad to have you on the podcast as we like try to find an identity.
Thanks, man. That was probably the best intro anybody's ever given me. Like this, that was so cool, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, and I thanks. You know, I definitely like want to know more. I know that like you live in Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi, born and raised here. It's home for me, but like I travel a lot.
Yeah, no, I noticed. I think since, you know, I've been corresponding with you about 2 months, I'm under the impression that you've actually been away from home more than you've been home.
Yeah. I've been since New York in June. So I left June 1st to North America in general. I went to Canada and then New York. I came back home for maybe like a week, and then I took off again. To Thailand, to Egypt, then Thailand, then Bali, and I just got back home about 2 days ago. And I probably won't be doing any traveling for a while. I gotta put my head down, get to work, get some commercial jobs going, and make some money so I can do this all over again next year.
That's wild. So Canada, New York, Egypt, Thailand, Bali.
Yeah. That's
and then home.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. So, you know, with that, I need to ask because, like, obviously you've been working really hard. I've just seen you like publish 2 different collections in that time frame that you just described. And I'm sure you've done other stuff like outside of Web3, right? Obviously, like you're really accomplished outside of the NFT space, which I think just brings even more value and intentionality to your work that I want to talk about. But first I wanted to ask, when you're traveling like that, right? Like, did you spend any time, I'm sure that you have fun doing a lot of the things that you do and being able to talk with people, being able to hang out with Basil. I loved the YouTube, just everything you do just seems like so intentional to me. I can't get enough of it. You did the YouTube video with Basil and his platinum print.
Yeah.
And then you acted like the AR was like his printing. You know what I mean? Like, what did you do? It's moving. So good, dude.
I love honestly, like if the more you kind of hang out with me, get to know me, like I'm very sarcastic, and I won't tell you that I'm making the joke or this is not real. Like I'll do something that's not real, and then I'll just leave it at that, and people think it's real. And you know, a lot of my work is you know, in the past I've done that before. Like I'll do something, and you know, people think it's real. So for example, you know, you've seen the magazine covers, right?
Yeah.
So that project is called Magazine Cover Magazine, and
but they're not real magazines.
They're not real magazines, exactly. But you thought they were real, right? Like when I first started that project, it wasn't Web3, it was before. So I started, you know, putting out these magazine covers, and people were like, "Yo, this is a sick magazine. Where can I get this magazine?" You know, and I just went with it. So I printed some covers. I just printed the actual covers, and I went to the grocery store and I put them on the racks. I took photos of them. I'm like, "Yo, just go to your local grocery store and you know, pick one up." And I was like, "Yo, sick. Okay, cool." But then people were like, "Yo, we couldn't find these magazines." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So then I went and took some videos of people taking the magazines off the rack. I'm like, "Yo, this is real. Like people are actually buying the magazines. Yo, this is the magazine." So I just kind of go with it, and people think it's real, and I love it.
But did you ever tell them it was a joke?
I mean, later on, they kind of figure it out later, you know what I mean? Like, I never actually say it, but like later on, they will figure it out, you know?
I don't know why. I think that like, were you doing? Did you? Sorry, when you first published that, was it an NFT or was that previous?
No. That was like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, and I now have them as just for me. I've got them as like a magazine. So you could I mean when you come to my studio, you could look at the magazine cover project as a full magazine, and you just kind of flip through it. And it's a whole magazine full of magazine covers, and the idea behind it is that nobody really cares about the content. Nobody's reading the actual content in the magazine. Everybody wants to be on the cover or shoot the cover or do makeup for the cover or style the cover. It's all about the cover, you know. So it's a magazine full of covers called Magazine Cover Magazine, and each cover is a take on something about society, whether it's like, you know, cosmetic culture with the Botox and lip fillers, or like, you know, trying to show off with how much money you've got, or, you know, just generally, you know, anything that's happening with society and the fashion industry. Like, I'll talk about it in the form of a magazine cover that's like sarcastic and funny.
That's what I mean, dude. It's like the images are already really amazing, and like the magazine, I liked the magazine cover project, and I can't read it. I have no idea what it says. Yeah. You know, but I think like you're still communicating really well with your images. A lot of the like commentaries that you have, and then obviously like knowing your background, a lot of the things that you stand for that you've shared like publicly, that helps like put some context to a lot of the things that you're doing too. But it's funny what you said, like about people just care about the cover, right? And like again, I'm gonna keep using the word intentional with you. So I have used you as an example when people ask like, what can we do as artists, or maybe not just artists, but also like people trying to mint onto chain. And I just, you know, like your collections are really cohesive. And so like the intentionality again is like you created a magazine with just like magazine covers in it. Like there's just irony.
Yeah, it's irony over irony. So, you know, when I used to post it on Instagram, the caption would always be, because like, you know, as a photographer, when you shoot when you shoot something, the general caption, oh, I'm proud to have shot the cover of blah blah blah, you know. So yeah. So my caption would always be, proud to have shot the cover of proud to have shot the magazine cover of Magazine Cover Magazine. And I just leave it at that, and people are just like, what, where is this thing? Where can we buy this magazine? You know.
Well, it's cool too because you're being like really sarcastic and a little bit cynical, but at the same time, I think that like you're always like conveying a positive message, and that's probably really profound in itself, because like your sarcasm, your dry humor, like usually it comes off like really degrading from people. Like I want to not be sarcastic. I've been a very sarcastic person in the past. It can kind of be degrading, but like when you're doing that, I don't think that like, I don't find it offensive at all. I'm sure somebody somewhere does, but like, it's just so tasteful. Like you've got really good tact, right? When you're going abroad, you've been to 5 countries recently at least. Are you able to like visit those countries, or are you just shooting sets?
No, I'm mostly not shooting sets. Like I'm mostly just being in the country, you know. And honestly, I actually don't take a camera with me that's for production. You know, I'll take a small travel camera with me, and just, you know, kind of hang out and shoot for travel stuff or whatever. But this time. I mean, obviously for New York, I knew I was shooting a set. I'd contacted Augustine before, like I knew we were doing that, so I took my medium format with me. But usually when I travel, like when I did Egypt and Bangkok and Bali, and I see Basil's in the room, Modern Vintage Photos, he's in with us. I didn't take a camera with me. I wasn't planning to shoot. I wasn't planning to do anything. I was just planning to go hang out with Basil first and you know, make prints, and that's it. And then the opportunity came to shoot. I was like, crap, I don't have, like, I don't want to shoot with my, I don't want to create something important with an APS-C sensor, like a small, tiny sensor. So Basil was nice enough to let me borrow his camera. And then when I went to Bali, I was going with a friend that was going to come in from Dubai. So once I thought about, okay, let me do another set, I asked him to bring a camera with him that's, that had the megapixel power that I needed. So again, usually I don't work.
Do you feel like handicapped using someone else's tools, or are you like
not really
pretty comfortable with it?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I'm more comfortable with my own gear, obviously. But I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a fork and spoon and knife, right? Like it's the same, I mean, when it comes to like digital, it's very, very similar. So you just need to know where the button is. Just tell me where the shutter speed is and the aperture and the ISO. And like, I'm good. I don't need all the fancier stuff around it,
Yeah, like that 90% of stuff that like you might mess with in the beginning, but then you stop using it over time, right? Like
exactly.
A lot of features.
Yeah.
Like as you're trying things out and stuff. So when you were in Bali, was it in Bali that like a monkey stole your water bottle?
Yeah,
and,
it
like,
was
bit a hole in the bottom.
Exactly.
And you were shooting that with like a camera, was right, and so that's your like travel camera.
Yeah,
that's
that was my travel camera. Yeah. That was a really funny moment. It was this beautiful sunset. It was we're going to meet friends. I was on a scooter. My wife was riding with me, and there was this spot where like everybody had stopped to watch the sunset. So I'm like, oh, let's just quickly stop and see what happens. So we stopped, and there were some monkeys on the bars, and they tell you in Bali, they tell you like the monkeys will steal your shit, like careful. But I had a water bottle just like stuck in like the scooter's like holder thing.
Oh, it went up to you in the scooter.
In the scooter, and the thing is, I had my phone in the same place, so the monkey could have easily just grabbed my phone too.
Oh, dude.
I was really lucky. So like I got off the bike, I got off the scooter, and my wife was still on the scooter, and I just went away for a little bit to shoot something else, and the monkey ran and picked up my water bottle, and my wife quickly picked up my phone as well. Like she had like the reflexes to do that, right? And then he couldn't open it, so he made a hole at the bottom, and I got that shot. I don't know if did you see in the comments? Did you see the actual shot?
No, I didn't. Okay. I actually thought that you were going to show the picture later. I saw.
Yeah, I just put it up. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I'll show the shot like post production.
Yeah,
I'll definitely like find that. So, no, that's super neat. I was really under the impression that you were just because you're still like so active while you're traveling. I was under the impression that like this was all just business, I'm really relieved to hear that it's not. And I was wondering if you had have you been to Bali before?
No, that was my first time.
Oh, okay. And did you visit Tiba?
I did, yeah. We hung out a couple of days. One day he came around to the house we're staying at, just kind of hung out. And the other day he took me and my friends to like the market and we did a bit of like vegetables and food shopping, the local stuff, and we had some food, and it was great, man. Like honestly, like what the NFT space and the Twitter space has given me is some new friends. Like every time I travel now, it's like I have somebody that I can go and hang out with and create with and just kind of connect with in real life. And I think that's outside of like all the artsy fartsy stuff, I think just having some new friends that you can talk to about the stuff you like is really, really something that I think as adults we struggle to make new meaningful connections, make new friends,
Well, and maintain those connections.
Yeah.
Even, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like I think people become really guarded, or maybe not even guarded, but we do become really busy and don't like make space for ourselves or other people to be vulnerable. And I think it might have been, no, somebody else was talking in another space for an app called Explorist, which is really cool. And he was just talking about like just sitting down, having a smoke with a friend, like being able to talk. And like, you know, this guy, this guy's like my age, his lifestyle is like a lot different. But like I still have those friendships. If Tommy's still in the audience on Twitter, for instance, like that's one of our friendships, and we're able to maintain that because like our wives are friends, our kids are friends, and like that's really special because. And I've only had like this one period, like 1 year period of life, like 2 years ago, where like I've always been very attached to my friends and friendships and like kindling new friendships and maintaining those and like knowing people really well. That's the thing is you just stop knowing people. Like so many people go about their day-to-day life. I experienced this just for like a 1 year period where you don't really know anybody. You don't know the people you work with. People don't want to go out to eat. People don't want to like hang out after work. It's just like a very different society. It's like people expect more out of relationships, like a deeper, more meaningful relationship, but nobody like knows how to do that. And you do that by like spending time and like asking people, you know, asking each other and listening to each other about like real things, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, man. It's I think it's also that you develop such niche interests that to find somebody in your local vicinity that has those same interests is close to impossible, you know? Like my friends and even my wife, like there's nobody I can talk to that I'm very close to about art or photography or NFTs or crypto or like nobody in my local surroundings or my local friend group is interested in that stuff, you know? So it's
I totally understand.
So it's refreshing
like
when you find
connection.
people, yeah, when you find people to talk to about this kind of stuff, you instantly become friends. Like, you know, we don't need to, you know, have the same background or go to the same coffee shops or whatever it is. We don't have to have anything in common but our interest in you know in whatever this space provides, which is, you know, art and crypto and NFTs and just general, you know, general digital hangout.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good point too, because two of the hobbies that I have that are like most important to me are like completely foreign to like almost anyone in my life, which is like NFTs and like backpacking, right? So yeah, it is tough. It is really tough. My good friends that likes to go outside a lot and we'd go out, we'd like hike like 10 miles at like 10,000 foot elevation, 6-degree weather, ice on the ground. And we'd like pitch like, there's this teepee called like Seek Outside. And it's like a really good lightweight material. And we'd pack a teepee and a wood burning stove. And like, they just, you know, he moved to Montana, I'm in California. And I've been backpacking once since. I tried to take like 3 friends that have never really been backpacking before. One of them forgot food for a 4-day trip. I don't know how you forget food, but like he definitely like was eating our half sandwiches and stuff the whole time. And that's fine. I loved taking people, but it just gets really isolating, especially like the NFT space, you know, not being able to like, I'd love to like just be in person, talk with somebody. And that's why I'm really glad to have the podcast and have Twitter Spaces. I think Twitter Spaces and like Clubhouse like has single-handedly like sustained the NFT industry because people are so like spread out, right? Like a lot of people don't have IRL friends, in real life friends that they can talk about NFTs with.
I think most people don't. I don't think anybody has an IRL friend that's from like, you know, 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago that they can talk to about NFTs. I don't think that exists. I don't think people go to a coffee shop together and talk about crypto or NFTs. It's unless you're working at a company that does that and then you go for lunch together. I don't think anybody has friends close to them that
it's just so, and it's tough, you know. I was in I'll get back on topic, I promise. I want to talk more about you, but I was in a space yesterday. No, I had a meeting with a marketer for my project, and he goes, you know what? your project is really cool, but it's too early for, like, the NFT space is too early for a project like this. And he goes, everybody just wants to make money and they want these hype projects. And then I was like, okay, like, I hear what you're saying. And then, like, he just kept going on and on. And I was like, can I tell you something about your project, man? Like, I think you marketed really well. That's why I reached out. But to be honest, like, I think your project and, like, other projects like that are actually what leads to, like, a limited growth of NFTs or, like, a halt in the growth. That's what the bear market is everybody got, like, really tired of, like, these investments in PFP projects and, like, getting their butts handed to them and, like, losing a bunch of money. I was like, honestly, that's what you're going to do here, because you're saying that, like, all people care about is an investment. The only reason why I've stayed in NFTs is because, like, since February, I basically stopped buying PFP projects. My stress levels went way down. Encouragement's gone way up, like buying from people that are just, like, producing art for art's sake, like you, just so many people, Sebastian, whatever. It just took all the pressure off. And, like, that's what kept me here. But people that were just buying NFTs to make money, like, were really taken advantage of. So I was like, I think the reason why it's too early is because people like you are doing what you're doing. And he didn't deny it at all. Like, he had no denial that, like,
you really called him out there.
Dude, yeah, because he's like, well, this is a Web 2 project. This is a Web 2 project, and I'm using a ton of Web 3 tech, like, really taking advantage of it, building an Etherscan API with another development team that can incorporate, like, tell me it's a Web 2 project just because it's, like, honest, like, I don't understand at all. But anyways, that's why it's hard to find people, because, like, the NFT space has been heavily stigmatized, whereas, like, people call it a pyramid scheme. Nobody's, like, buying your art, for instance, on, like, a bunch of promises to, like, sell it in the future, right? Like, they're buying it to support you to, like, do that more, or just to collect it. And like people didn't collect marbles when I was a kid. I didn't collect marbles to sell marbles. Like, for some reason, we do have, like, a collectability nature, right? So what do you do in Canada?
I was like, whoa, marbles. Okay. Canada was a bit of a pilgrimage for me. So I went to school in Canada. My best friend's family's in Canada. So I had a best friend that I grew up with since whatever, we were, I guess, like 6 or 7. We had a band together. We started a business, a recording studio together and everything. But he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. And every couple of years or every year or two, like, I'll go and visit his family and stay with his family and just kind of do, like, a bit of a walk down memory lane. The university we went to, the gym we went to, and just kind of hung out with his family and his sisters and his brother, and just kind of, I don't really know what to say, just like a pilgrimage, really. Just kind of go there and hang out, and that's it, really. That's Canada for me.
I think I can, like, relate to that pretty well. To me, it's like, it's really important to, like, maintain, like, those childhood connections and, like, appreciate my friends' parents and families and stuff that, like, really allowed me to, like, partake in their lives. And I'm sorry to hear about your friend, but have you been able to, like, go to any of the national parks in Canada or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I think so. We went to. I went to what's it called? Was it Banff or Glacier?
Yeah.
Is it not Glacier National Park? The other one. There's Banff, and then there's one right after Banff. What's it called?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, damn it. Anyways, Lake Louise. There we go, Lake Louise. So I went to Lake Louise when we were in Calgary, and then back to Toronto. Toronto was just downtown Toronto, and just seeing all my old friends from college and hanging out with my friends' family.
So your college was your university, like, was in Canada?
Yeah, University of Toronto.
Okay, and so when that's funny. I've been talking to a lot of people from Toronto. Yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Abu Dhabi, and born and raised here. And then I, just went and did my chemical engineering degree in Toronto and came back.
Okay, so chemical engineering degree, and how long did you try to stick with that after school?
I mean, I stuck with it for a while. So let's say, I graduated in 2008, which was like the height of the financial crisis. So, and I really wanted to stay in Canada. I didn't want to go home. There was a girl involved. I wanted to stay. I wanted to hang out with my girl. So I moved to Hamilton, which is like, a shithole, really. And I took a job telemarketing for like a securities company. These people that call you out of the blue and try to sell you securities, be like, hey, I've got some financial package for you. And you're like, who the fuck are you, kind of thing. You know that guy? I was that guy.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I was that guy. But I mean, there was no jobs. It was 2008, market crashed.
Yeah.
Everything was shot to shit, right? Anyways, I did about 6 or 7 months of that, and then the relationship with my girl was just like not working, and I wasn't making any money, and I'm like, why am I here? So I decided to go back. And I think once I made the decision, I think within like 6 days, I'd like closed up the house, sold everything I got, and moved back to Abu Dhabi. And then I think right away, honestly, about like a month or two later, like I'd applied for some jobs, and I got a job in the oil industry. And that turned into a 10-year career from like, a small-time field lab technician to middle management in sort of one of the biggest 4 oil field service companies in the world.
And you did that for how long?
For 10 years. So I started in 2009. I would say, 2008, 2009, and I would say, I guess less than 10 years, maybe 8. I left in 2016, 2017, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say 2019, you took off and from a job that was, like in the middle of everything. Okay, and I was going to say, it seems like you've had a very accelerated career then, but how long have you been shooting for?
So I mean, in 2013, me and my buddies, we started a recording studio. My buddy was a sound engineer, and my other buddy was like his family had a construction business, so he was like very, very organized with like logistics and like he can, build stuff and move stuff around. So we started a recording studio. And through that recording studio, I was just trying to like market the studio, and I had a camera. So, I'd just shoot the musicians that came in to record or jam or whatever, just to, post on Facebook and get people to come into the studio. And the musicians started to like my photos and wanted to use them for like flyers or, come see our show or something. So being a business, like we said, okay, cool, like we'll sell you the photo. At the time we were like, okay, $10 a photo, They're like, all right, cool. I'm like, oh, seriously, somebody's paying $10 for a photo? Nice, cool. And then they start to ask us to come and shoot the show. So I'd go and shoot the show. And then I realized slowly I was getting better. People liked my stuff. And we started to, the income started to shift. The revenue started to shift to go heavily towards the photo side over the recording side. We're like, oh, okay, fine. So we hired a videographer and another photographer, and which I both taught the business side of things and then learned the photography side of things, and then we kind of grew to a point where the company was a bit too big for us to still keep our main jobs, our careers. So I was still in the oil industry, my buddy was still in consulting, my other buddy was still in construction, and we had this side project of a recording studio that just got really successful. And we had about maybe 8 people working for us at a time.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, while still like the 3 of us, the 3 main guys, just kind of doing this on the side. And my buddy decided, look, like I want to pursue my career like overseas. I want to go back to Canada and do the consulting job. So we decided to shut down the studio, and it was very sad because not just because it was a successful business, but like it was my best friends and a reason to hang out with them daily and talk shop. So that was pretty sad. So we shut that down, but I still continued shooting. So then I started to shoot under my own name as Waleed, as a photographer, as an artist. And it wasn't until, so I think 2016 or 17, I can't remember, the oil price had tanked, right, in 2015. And the year before, the division of my company, the chemicals side of Weatherford, got bought out by one of Warren Buffett's companies called Lubrizol. And they bought us out, so we became Lubrizol employees. But then a year later, they couldn't like recover from the market crashing and the oil market crashing. So over a phone call, over like a conference call, they shut down that division of the company. 4,000 of us lost our jobs worldwide over like a conference call. Now, the funny thing is actually I wasn't on that conference call. I had no idea that happened. So, after the conference call, I was still working. I was still going to work. I didn't go to the main office. I had like another side office, and I'd go do my sales calls. I'm on emails. I'm sending people, quotes and stuff. And then the weekend rolls around, and my boss calls me. He's like, "Waleed, I just wanted to give you some time to digest what happened before I give you a call." And I'm like, "The fuck are you talking about? What happened?" He's like, "What do you mean? You weren't on the call?" I'm like, "What call? No, I wasn't on the call." He's like, "Oh, okay. Sit down, man." I'm like, "Okay." And this is on the phone. He's like, "You need to sit down for this." I'm like, "Well," and then he told me what happened.
Hang on, dude. I just want to stop you there. The whole like sit down thing, it's always driving me nuts because it's like, what am I gonna do? Like pass out? Like just sit down. It's just like so dramatic. Like, hey, Waleed, you lost your job and you're just gonna faint. Like, why do people do that? Sorry. Go ahead. I couldn't help myself. I just like when I hear that in movies or people said that on the phone too. I'm like, I don't understand. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries, man. But I was with my wife at the time. We're at a restaurant, and then when I got off the phone after he told me what happened, I was like relieved. Like I had like this smile on my face because I wasn't able to quit my job myself. I didn't have the balls to do it, I guess, because the money was good. I was making twice.
You probably just felt kind of free, right? Like it sounds like you must have been internalizing that for a long time. If you already felt relief.
Yeah, I was internalizing it for about 2 years, but like working in the oil industry, like the money's good, and I was making that money, and I was making the money from my photography, so I was making like two salaries almost, So it was really hard to make the decision to quit myself. And thankfully, because they'd let us go, they gave us a really nice severance package. So like that set me up for like a good like 6 or 7 months. So I was then able to like really, double down on photography, and that's when I started to become like the commercial guy and being able to do like the daytime work. Whereas before I was doing the nightlife and the parties and all that stuff. But like the daytime stuff started only when I left the job. And I was able to do the brand work and the car work and all that stuff.
Wow, that's actually like really intense, really cool. There's kind of a, not to float your boat too much, there's a little bit of a pattern of success with you, man, because your friends like started your recording studio and that was successful. Minus your 2008 in Toronto, it sounds like, right? But like, and then it sounds like you were able to get a career in a profession that you went to school for, which not a lot of people do. And that was like, sounds like you were successful, or else you wouldn't have had trouble leaving. And then, shooting for yourself as well, all at the same time too. Tommy, you met Tommy for a second on Speaker Panel.
Yeah.
Like we run a camper van company out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we're doing well. but it definitely like makes me, one, we're also in like pretty flexible places to do something like that. So it just makes me really respect like anyone that can like turn a side hustle into like their day to day, right? Because it's hard and it takes like, you have to prioritize, you have to be committed. You may be lucky, but I think definitely honest, integral, otherwise it's not sustainable. And then also, I don't know, what do you think is kind of like the key to like pursuing something and like making it work? And you had partners. Some people say don't partner. I couldn't do it without Tommy, right? So I'm like pro partner. But what are your thoughts on that? Just pursuing success with your own creation.
Yeah, I think when it comes to partners, like I did the partner and the no partner, and right now it's the no partner that's working for me. When I partnered with my best friends, at the end of the day, like everybody had different interests and we had to respect each other and shut it down. I would have loved to continue that project. Like, just to give you an example, like it was at a time where, before Spotify, it was a time like where it was not Apple Music, it was iTunes, and you couldn't get on iTunes unless you had a label, and we were that label that can get you on iTunes. You know what I mean? So like we
yeah,
especially for like the Middle East, like if you go on iTunes, you'll find like our name as a label on some of the bands still. And then we the label, the bands that signed up with us, like we would place them to like open for Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi and Metallica. Like our bands were opening for these bands. So it was a really successful endeavor, but because I had partners, we had to kind of like separate when our interests weren't aligned, right? So right now I'm a completely solo guy. I have one assistant that I usually hire or change, every 4 months. I do like an internship program almost, where I'll hire somebody that wants to learn photography, and they're with me on every single shoot for like a small fee. And once they've kind of learned what they need to learn, like that's it. Like I don't want you to hang around with me for more than 4 months, because then I'm taking advantage of you, right? You're not going to learn as much more than you've learned in 4 months. So I'll just change the intern slash assistant. So but that's really my team. It's just me and an assistant, and then I'll outsource my retouching is outsource with this one person that I've been using for like 6 or 7 years, and that's it. That's all I have.
Yeah, that's really neat. I'm gonna ask too, like that mentality. So there's an honesty and there's an integrity. I said a second ago that I don't think that like you can be successful without that. I wanted to point out that like a lot of those things that you started, you did work for somebody else too. And I'm not pro like knocking 9 to 5s. I tweeted that like yesterday. I'm like trying to do like this unpopular opinion thing. And so I was like, unpopular opinion number 7, like stop thinking it's cool to bash 9 to 5 jobs, because like some people like them, or like if they don't, like I understand sometimes some people are trying to motivate. I think for the most part they're like farming engagement, but and it makes people feel bad, right? That like, oh, what are these people all melting in their chairs at their office jobs? And it's like, bro, like you're talking about like most of the population, like people live in their own bubbles sometimes. But I wanted to point out that like when you have that, let's call it 9 to 5, but you have that regular job, like working for somebody else, it allows you to like take risks that you need to take to pursue like that studio, right? Because you can't just not have a job, invest some capital into the studio and put like full time into it. Like these things like take time to get traction. But also like having that safety net allows you to operate ethically and honestly, right? So because you're not desperate all the time, right? Like that seems to be like Tommy and I are never forced to like make any compromising decisions. We're like so willing to like, our customer service is off the wall. Like we talk about it all the time. Like there's no way that other people have this kind of customer service. And it's because like we have our jobs. But when you were talking about that record label's success, and having partners and, you know, the pros and cons, like obviously it had to dissolve, you know, I was wondering, like, have you had any fails? Would you say that you've had any failures in business?
Totally, man. I've got a ton of failures. I think one that really stands out is probably, you know, my wife and I started a restaurant, maybe. It's funny, it doesn't even register anymore. Like I don't remember that we had a restaurant, but it was such a big part of life, you know. We had a calzone.
Yeah, just this minor thing.
Yeah. Because it was like it didn't work out, and like we shut down, and that was it. We moved on, you know. But we started a calzone restaurant.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, the best calzones are actually in the Salt Lake City airport.
Okay,
or Denver. Cool. Denver, Colorado airport. Best calzone ever. Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, I mean that didn't work out. You know, our costs were just too high, and you know we were making the average amount of sales, but just our rent was just too high. We just chose the wrong spot. So you know we did that for about 3 or 4 years, and we shut that down. Yeah, I think that's the one that sticks out the most. But like, yeah, generally have like a whole bunch of failures, a whole bunch of like failed projects that didn't really, you know, get off the ground. I remember, so when I first moved to not the area I live in now, but the area I lived in before. When I first moved there, I became really good friends with my neighbor. And we decided to start up a car wash company together. And we went in and we registered the name and everything, and then we knocked on doors and we asked people like how did like a little market survey, you know how many times do you wash your car, how much are you willing to pay, you know, all that stuff. And then it just never took off. Like we went and tried to get like the permits to do it, and we just, you know, we hit a few walls and we just kind of gave up, you know. So there's been some failures, you know.
You were gonna do a car wash, like build a car wash?
Not build a car wash. You know those like mobile car washes, just like basically a guy in a bucket.
And you needed a permit for that?
Yeah. You need to basically. It's like think about it like territories, like mafia, right? If you're selling drugs on the street, right? Like
or taxis in New York.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same thing. So like you need the permission or the permit from like the area or the compound, let's say, to do it in, right?
Okay, so, where was that at?
In Abu Dhabi, and where
okay, because like here, right? If I wanted to do that, it'd be that. Like, I don't have to ask it. There's some things that technically I have to do, like pay a city business fee, maybe like $75 annually, and then bam. Like, that's it, dude. Maybe some people are mad, but I can't think of any, you know, you want to register as an entity, but you don't even have to. You can register as sole proprietor, right? So, like, it's my company. That's not advice to anybody. In fact, I'd always advise, like, separating liability. That's an American thing, too, though. That's the con, right? It's where there's almost as many probably like corporations as there are people. People are constantly trying to separate liability. People are worried about it. But permitting wise, man, like if I want to start a mobile detailing business, like I'm not saying it's easy, but I can start tomorrow, be done within like, I can have it registered with the state in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's just capital.
Yeah. I mean, we had it registered. Like we got through the registry. Like we had everything registered. We have the paper. We're just like we couldn't get into the place where we wanted to get into. We wanted to get into our neighborhood, basically. You know, just our neighborhood. You know. So then the guy, basically the boss of the neighborhood, got his cousin to start up a company, and they did it. You know, they did the car wash thing. But anyways,
they were like, that sounds like a good business. Yeah. You know, I laughed when you said it. I didn't laugh because a car wash or mobile detailing business is ridiculous. In fact, like I have 2 friends that have done it that don't even know each other very successfully. But I laughed because like. I laughed because, you know, I thought you're a photographer. I knew about the chemical engineering degree and some work in that field. But then you're telling me like about the studio, you're telling me about a calzone restaurant that you started, and then like a mobile detailing thing, right? Like literally can't like get a target on you, but that's why I laughed. I didn't mean to like offend.
Yeah, no,
like,
no, 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 no. Yeah, I mean, look, I try to do like anything that's interesting or you know. Thankfully, like I worked hard as an employee to make a bit of capital, to invest that capital, to give me a cushion to go and do things that may or may not make money, and then when they do make money, it gives me another cushion to go and do something else that may or may not make money, right? So
Right.
so it's kind of like it's building on that. So I had my job, that was great. I did a few things that didn't work out, cool. Then I had the photography thing that worked out. So I left the job, and I've got like a nice financial base that I can kind of like jump off from, and then I go and try different things, and mostly the other things are failing, and we're at the photography thing still. The next thing would have been like crypto. Like I invested in some crypto, and
then God,
I'm
not an investor.
Yeah,
I'm just not.
I
can invest in myself. The most successful investment I've had is like capital in a company that we've started. Like that's any other investment, man. I'm the Steve Aoki. Like I really am. I buy the top. Okay, so when I buy in, everybody should get out, or everybody does get out. But you've brought up your photography. We definitely talked about like the logistics of it. We talked a little bit about like some of the commentary you've done with the magazine cover, or the cover magazine.
Magazine cover.
Magazine cover magazine. But there's just no way that you can do the work that you do if it was just about like the money and the logistics and like a happenstance success. Like there had to be a time when you started shooting at the studio that you were like really experimenting. You were really passionate about shooting the musicians because they liked the photographs. Then you went to their shows. Like, can you just give us maybe like, I'll ask really pointed questions because I know like our time's running out. I want to ask you a few more things, but I really wanted to dive into this because I don't think we did it justice. I didn't do you justice. When was that moment that you really fell in love with the craft? I'm assuming, do you love photography?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. When was the moment, if you could like pinpoint like kind of a turning point, when was the moment that like you really got invested in like learning about it, like interested in it? Then like we'll talk about when was the moment that you realized you could do this for a living. And then I have one more question after both those. So I think they're two different moments. There's like, oh, I really enjoyed this. Sounds like you didn't think that you could do it for a living. And then there was another point where you realized you could do it for a living.
Yeah. I think so. So the moment where I started to enjoy it was, I remember the setting. So I've got a buddy of mine called Arya, and he grew up. We weren't friends in school, but we were in the same like vicinity, right? And then he went to San Francisco, and he became this awesome photographer. He shoots. He's on tour with like Armin and all the EDM electronic music, guys. And his like nightlife party images just blew my mind. So when I started photography and when we started to get hired for nightlife, we kind of connected on Facebook, and he was helping me out and stuff like that. But there was this one time where he came back home from San Francisco, which is Abu Dhabi, and I invited him to the studio, and I saw him work. Like I saw him, he's like, let me shoot some stuff. So he grabbed his camera, and I saw him do a few things. And that was the first time I had seen another photographer work. Like I've always been like looking up YouTube stuff and learning online, but I've never actually seen another guy that's quote unquote a photographer do his thing in front of me, right? And so I was just kind of watching him, and he's like, "Yo, let me show you this trick." So he takes the lens off the mount, and he's shooting, it's called like freehanding or freestyling the lens, where like it's not on the mount, and he's just like creating like abstract stuff with his subject. And I just found that really, really fascinating. I'm like, oh, I don't have to, I don't have to do what the camera wants me to do. I can do my own thing. And I think that's the moment where like I fell in love with photography, where I saw somebody else like break the rules, and I just kind of went nuts from there. Like, my whole thing with nightlife was like, slowing down the shutter, putting lights in different places. So that was really, really the moment, I think, for me, when I started to like fall in love with photography. And then, seeing where I can really make a living from it, like, I think, it was way after like the nightlife scene. Like, doing the nightlife scene, you get paid what, like, $200 a night, $300 a night. It's hardly enough to like, make a living, right? But there was this one time where, and I remember I was still like, I still had my day job, and I was trying to find ways to like get into the campaign stuff, because I know that like the campaign stuff with the billboards, they get, they pay usage. It's a day rate, not an hourly rate. You've got your assistant, your lights. I'm like, there must be some money in there that I can find, as a photographer. So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, if I shot a few fashiony things. I'm like, how many T-shirts or jeans or pants do they need to sell to cover my fee? Like, 20, 30 pairs? But like, how many cars do they need to sell to cover my fee? Or how many days of shooting is worth a car, right? So I'm like, okay, let me get into the car scene. So I got my buddy's car, and it was a Mercedes, and I lit it really nice. I shot it. I shot a few scenes, and I used to do this thing when I was trying to market myself, where I don't sit in a dark room with my laptop in my house editing my photos. No, I'll go to a coffee shop that is beside a lot of agencies, and put my laptop against the wall so everybody can see my screen, and I'll edit there, just for everybody walking by to see me and maybe say hi or look at my screen, or see what I'm doing. And that happened. This one guy comes through, and I was editing my car photo, and he goes like, "Oh, that's cool. How about you do this, and how about you do that?" And he gave me some tips, and I did it, and we finished the shot, and this is some random dude that I don't know. And when we were done, he gave me his card, and it said Audi on it. He's like, "I think I might have a project for you." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, it worked," So that, I think that was the moment, and then I have that I teach a course called The Business of Photography, and I have that story in there, as the images, right? I have the image I shot I created for Audi, right beside the image that the guy was seeing me shoot, and it's basically the identical image, the same lighting, but just a different car. And I've got multiple stories like that, where like I shot something, somebody saw it and said, "Hey, can you do this for my brand?" And it's just like that's the way marketing works. You create something, you shoot something that you feel works for a specific type of brand. You put it out there. Somebody calls you to shoot the same thing in their clothes or in their shoes or in their whatever.
Yeah. Well, that brings us like full circle back to the word intentional, and I think while we're on the subject of photography, I'd really like to, if you're open to it, I'd like to talk about. Actually, I have one question, and then I'd like to talk about your project with Basil and both models. I'm forgetting their names right now, but you have two different sets.
Yeah, right? I've got three actually. One you haven't seen yet, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I hope there's a free mint there too. No, I'm kidding. But I want to get into that, but before I do, I think this question has been a long time in the making. So Waleed has, for listeners, Waleed has a collection, which is the first time, maybe the only time I'll ever like fully collect like a complete collection from like one person, right? So there's a compilation of photographs in a collection on Object, which is a Tezos marketplace, which is a cryptocurrency blockchain, right? Anyways, it's called Candy Lips. So you have that collection, now in my eyes, as a collector, and collectors do get to make some rules, I think that the singles bite me, and I'm forgetting the title of the one with the lime as well. I consider both of those to be in the Candy Lips collection. So, and here's why I say collectors get to make the rules. Because when people are collecting stamps or collecting cards or something, there's a misprint people didn't care about or don't consider, or even the Star Wars movies, some people wouldn't consider 7, 8, 9 like a part of this. Like people make these rules. It's pretty subjective. So I'm saying that those two singles are a part of that collection. Okay,
they actually are.
I think like if 10 years down the road, if a collector looks at this collection, they won't consider it complete without those two singles. One of which, like, I'm an exclusive owner of. So I'm so excited about that. And that's why I can't like get rid of any of them now, because I have this complete collection called Candy Lips. I kind of wanted to know your commentary behind it a little bit, or was it just fun?
It's both fun, and there's a little bit of that. I don't really know how to describe it, but let me describe something else for you, and then you can maybe relate it to that. So I've got this other piece on the magazine cover, collection called Nipple Confusion.
Mm-hmm. Right? I've seen that.
You've seen that one?
Yeah, that's and with cigarettes.
Exactly,
right?
Cigarettes.
Yeah.
and
or is that the one with the needle?
No, not the needle. The cigarettes one. So it's the image is cigarettes and vape, and we have this other thing to like smoke tobacco thing called medouaf, the shisha heads all around the nipple, and the title is Nipple Confusion. Now, Nipple Confusion is a term, I think it's generally like a medical term where it describes the baby not being able to latch on to his mother's breast after being given a bottle, because the technique of latching onto the bottle is different than the breast. So I kind of took that whole thing into smoking, right? Trying to quit smoking, going from one nipple, one type of smoke to another.
Yeah.
Now, that goes back to the whole sort of oral fixation thing that everybody has as a kid. You have your lollipops and your thumb in your mouth, but you grow up with it, and you have it becomes candy, sugar, and then it becomes sexual as well, and then it becomes substance abuse and nicotine and stuff like that. So it's this whole I can't really pinpoint exactly my intention at the time, but I've always been thinking.
No, I think that's
that spectrum of like oral fixation from when you're a kid all the way up to adulthood, and there's a lot of things that fit into that fixation from like I said, like sugar to substances to what was that, tobacco?
Yeah.
So it's part of that. It's part of that sort of journey.
Wow, that's so. I've actually always wondered why it was called Nipple Confusion.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. But sorry for saying but, can you also touch on, well, you said you'd tell me that and then I can figure out like Candy Lips. I think, okay, I'll just tell you like kind of my interpretation of it. Yeah. First of all, like composition, color, pop, right? Yeah. It's also like slightly sensual, but it's something I can have all over my house. That's a big deal to me. Like, I don't have any problems with like fine art, nude photography at all. But like, I also want to like respect, like I don't want people to walk in my house and see it, because some people may not understand context or may choose to like not partake in like viewing that or have issues with it. So I don't tend to collect like any like nude photography, but this was like a really, first off, like it just really stood out. Then I saw like 5 of them and I was like, oh gosh, this is like right, like as a collectible. Like I could see it. It was obtainable too. It's like you priced it so nicely on Tesla, like so generously. And so like I could see it. I could see like its compatibility, its uniformity. And so just to describe too, and I'll put the video on YouTube post-production, like Chupa Chups, right?
Yeah. That's everybody's favorite. Yeah.
Dude, oh yeah. I actually really like Bite Me too. So Chupa Chups and Bite Me are my absolute like favorites. But so like Chupa Chups are like a lollipop, not really sold in many places in the US, but it's actually like Spanish for like chupar. Did you read those descriptions I put in Spatial?
I did not. No. Did you put different descriptions?
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay, I gotta see that.
Yeah, I did, and it's because like I tried to auto upload, but Tezos isn't as compatible with Spatial as like Ethereum. So then I was very blatant though, like these are my descriptions, right?
Okay,
like I was very clear about that, and so like I actually did like a commentary between each one, just like some fun facts, whatever. So like Chupa Chups is like, I think it's a Brazilian or Spanish candy, and it comes from like the verb chupar, which means like suck on something. Yeah. And so like Chupa Chups. And so, and then there's glitter on it, which was an artistic choice. And like, I think like, I really enjoy that, like, it's really pretty, like all about it. There was like a lot of intentionality. Like I'll stop using this word one day, but a lot of intentionality in like staging the photo. Like the Coca-Cola one, you know, I grew up going to like, we have a lot of Coca-Cola decorations because I was raised by my grandparents' generation. I was like born in the 50s. He loves like Coca-Cola stuff. So like, and then I saw that, and then I was like so impressed by like the models, like,
the positioning, the pose, like how did you do that?
Yeah. Like discipline, willingness, like just like.
Dude, you're describing the exact feeling I had when I asked her to do that. I asked her to do it, and she's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's go." It was basically in a bathtub, and she had her hands just around her mouth like that, so she can hold the ice. Okay. So
I never considered like how do you hold all the candy and stuff.
Exactly. So it was like this, and you know, we had the ice in there. She had her hand in there, and then, you know, I had one hand on the camera, and I poured the Coke like right onto her face, and then click, 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 and we got that shot.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like super impressive to me. Like it was relatable, but also like it took me out of myself. Really like put me in the model spot. Like I had to like picture like the carbonation, some of the discomfort. I even thought about like, wow, what like a mess to clean up afterwards. And so I was just like getting like pretty captivated by it. And then like as I was like consuming these photographs, because it took me a few weeks actually to buy them all, because no one was listing them. And shout out to Joanne, It's Little Things. It's the Little Things, right? She sold me the first one that I bought. Because I put an offer out. And so I've like thanked her for that like 10 times. Like she's the one that like started the whole snowball effect. But then like, I guess what it means to me is like, it's sort of objectifying because like the model has like Skittles in her, like it's almost like suffocating by all these different things. Sorry, it took me so long to just say such a simple sentence, but it also like as pretty and beautiful as it is, there's a huge like tension between that and like also like the subliminal like suffocation of like gluttony almost, right? Mixed with like the sensuality and aversion to like almost like this sin of gluttony. So that's sort of what it is how do you say it? Like juxtaposition, just total juxtaposition. Beautiful color composition, fun, candy, lipstick, all that with but like an aversion to like the subliminal.
It's subliminal, and it's slightly uncomfortable to look at too, you know?
Yes.
I get that. I like that's the comment I got like when I first shot them. Like people are like, "Oh, I love it," and then they stop for a second. I'm like, "Okay, it's a little uncomfortable. Like I wouldn't want to put this up in my house. Like it's uncomfortable.
Really? I'm
yeah.
It's
you know what I mean? Like
one day.
Like obviously, like we're a bit more conservative here in the UAE, right? Like it's not like So like I get it. Like I get why it's uncomfortable, and that's why I shot it. That's why I did it that way. Like
maybe people feel guilty too. I actually feel like a measure of guilt. Dude, really phenomenal pictures. I'll try to like blast them up here in the YouTube video. Sorry for anyone that's just listening. You can always go to Waleed's like Twitter. He did not pay me for this. Just something I'm passionate about. I know it's called Token Travelers. We've only talked about photography. And I wanted to talk about your projects with Basil if you have like 10 more minutes.
I've got all day, man. Like I can hang out with you for hours.
Okay, we'll talk all day. We'll talk all day. Yeah. So, so like to kind of allow for this to be a little bit symbiotic or allow me to fulfill my promise to listeners. I was hoping that we can talk about Thailand and the project. So first, I guess you have to describe the set. You can do this however you want.
Okay.
I would imagine like you talk about shooting.
Yeah.
And then some process stuff, and then like going to Thailand and meeting Basil, and then like a little bit about the platinum printing. My understanding was that like platinum printing allowed for like different gradients to be a lot more soft.
That's exactly
I know it's a very old print style, but when you talked about it in your project's narrative on your website, you talked about its durability. So we can touch on the set, Thailand, meeting Basil, platinum printing, and some things like that, with a little bit of an emphasis on like something that like really stands out to you in Thailand or that you enjoy about Thailand.
Okay. First of all, I mean, shooting with Augustina in New York, like that kind of happened where I think we were all in a space, and I think I see Bryony in here. We were in a space with Bryony, and there's a few other people. Like we had like a bit of an OG crew in the beginning, and we're like, how about this NFT NYC thing? Like, is anybody going? Are we going? What's happening? Blah blah blah. We're like, everybody just kind of one by one said, "Fuck it, let's meet up. Let's make this happen. Let's all go and meet up in New York around NFT NYC and just kind of meet everybody that we've been speaking to on Twitter." And so that was happening. I booked the tickets to New York to go see our digital friends in real life. And I remember that there's this one woman called Augustina. I don't think we see her around anymore, but she'd come into the space and she was very sort of comfortable with her body, sexually as well. So I thought, this could be a person that I could do this project with, because I needed somebody in the space that is comfortable with their body. I could have easily hired somebody and just paid them a fee. But for the first one here, I really wanted to do like a collaboration where like, I'm also not just interested in the images, but I'm interested in the tech. Like I wanted to have somebody that I collaborate with, that I pay using a smart contract that splits the royalties. Like I wanted somebody to understand that, right? Because every time I try to do that with my local community, they don't get it, they don't understand, and they say no, and they're afraid of it. So I really wanted to find somebody that to prove to me and to everybody else that the tech works and you can trust each other with a contract, with a digital contract. Mm-hmm. So I talked to Augustina about it, and we agreed on a split. And I got there, we shot the images, and the images, the whole project is really about using models in the fashion industry just as clothes hangers, where they don't have opinions, they don't get to decide how their likeness is used. They don't get to decide what clothes they like to wear or what narrative they want to be a part of. It's just, hey, wear this thing, strike a pose, shoot, and we'll use that to sell our clothes, or go and walk down this runway with a blank face, turn around, strike a pose, go back.
Can I talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, sure.
So, I spent a lot of time going through the collection yesterday, the day before, when I minted the free the two free. Is that number 15?
15, yeah.
So, you know, and you've been marketing it really well for a long time. So I've been privy to this by following your Twitter for at least a month, really. I feel like you shared something a month ago. But what you just explained about like utilizing models, you know, as clothes hangers, I wanted to point out that like I just want to describe the picture to people a little bit because it's also a podcast platform, right? Not everybody's going to be able to see, but like what I saw was like a model and almost a mannequin. You actually turned her into a mannequin.
That's exactly.
And
yeah, that's exactly.
so you know, it's like she is nude, but it's pretty much desexualized. But what's ironic about that, you know, like the neck is cut off, not in a gory way, but in a mannequin way. So it really, you know, she looks like a mannequin, but with like human skin. It's very uncomfortable. It's you know, like you did like there's no nipples. It's a mannequin with human skin. Okay, so what was really interesting is like by talking about like this objectification, like by desexualizing the model or the subject, the image, by desexualizing it, you were able to talk about like objectification, which I think is like a really interesting way of achieving that again. And that goes back to earlier when I was just talking about how your sarcasm, your dry humor, almost like these pranks, like they're not like condescending. They're really, really clever. And same thing with this set. I was thinking about that a lot yesterday. That's quite the accomplishment.
Thanks, man.
Sorry,
I really appreciate you saying that. I just want to touch on one thing because actually, Brian, I keep looking at Brian. Brian's in the room, and when you're talking about like the neck is cut off, like not in a gory way. So I shot these images and I had, I put them together and I didn't have the Photoshop skills to go and cut off all the necks like really nicely. So I sent it to my retoucher, and while we were having, in New York, me and Bridie were having dinner or lunch or whatever it is, and my retoucher was sending me just screenshots of what she was doing, and we were looking at the neck, and then I'd be like, Bridie, what do you think of this? She's like, I don't like the angle cut. It looks like somebody just chopped her head off. Change the angle. So we changed the angle, and she'd send me she'd send me a new version. I'm like, how about this apple? She said, no, this angle's not working. It's got to be like this. It's got to be, So we actually.
So she's saying like she wanted to see like not a head cropped off.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that's special. You did it in like it was done rather in a 3-dimensional way. So
exactly.
Props, Bridie, because like I think that's a standout. That's a real standout in the photo.
Yeah, so that was all Bridie. The head chop angle is courtesy of Bridie.
I think that's a crucial part of that photograph. It really is.
Yeah. So we shot the images. Augustine was awesome, and then I came back to the UAE for like 10 days, and then flew to Egypt and then Thailand to meet Basil. Basically, what happened was we were supposed to go to Tunisia. The plan was Egypt and Tunisia. My wife is half Egyptian, half Tunisian, but there was this whole like economic downturn in Tunisia. It just wasn't a good place to be over the summer. So we canceled Tunisia, and I'm just like, actually, if we don't have anywhere to go, I would love to go to Thailand. I know this guy that does these things, the platinum prints.
Have you been there before?
I've never been to Thailand before.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I haven't either.
Yeah. So my wife's like, all right, fine. I'm like, great. So before she could change her mind, I was just like, yo, Basil, what are you in Thailand? I want to come over. So yeah, that happened. We booked tickets and came down. I had like the print files ready, and honestly, like as soon as we met, it was like we'd known each other for months or years. Like we didn't have to like reintroduce ourselves to each other, and that's the cool thing. Like with everybody we met as well in New York, like we kind of knew everybody already. And just honestly, just hanging out with Basil was priceless, really. Just the wealth of knowledge and information, and you know what's out there and what's available for like an artist or a photographer to accomplish was really, really priceless for me. I mean, the process of printing is something probably like I realize like I would probably never be able to recreate or learn to do or have sort of the drive to master, because you know you've seen the guy that does it, like, you know, probably one of the best in the world, you know. I'm like, okay, like I need, you know, multiple decades to get to this point, and I'll probably never get to this point anyways. So I kind of almost gave up and tried to learn platinum printing after seeing Basil, because it's just it's so precise and he's so good at it. I'm like, you know what? If I ever need a platinum print, I'm gonna call Basil and I'll get him to do it for me. But yeah, I mean the video we put out, you know, was sort of a step by step of how it's done, and I think that's really important for people to know in the space, because it's hard to visualize. You know, when Basil describes it in words, you know, sometimes you don't realize like the little details that that if you mess up something by, like, you know, one drop, or you have the humidity different by, like, you know, 3%, you know, it changes the whole process, right? And just seeing that and him explaining that and seeing visually why that matters, I think is important for people to appreciate the value of what Basil does.
Right, right. And I think, you know, just as like somebody that really appreciates context, like I think everybody's admonishment of Basil has already, so, you know, again, modern vintage photography, I knew that it's like a very respectable thing, right? But with that information that you guys provided by documenting that process, it gave me just like context, and it's a lot like going backstage with a band that you like, right? It's a lot like that. So I just really appreciate like the intentionality. I think we should rename the podcast to like intentionality, but just like allowing people to like partake in that process and everything, and see that, you know, it's like a 20-minute video. I would definitely check it out if you're interested in different printing methods, or at least in platinum printing, and you want to know what it is, because it was a lot of fun too, and you'll actually get to see like some of the AR, which is augmented reality, that Waleed was able to implement with, is that Artivision?
Yeah, it's called Artivive,
Artivive, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with arthouse.iar before, but so I hadn't heard of Artivive yet. What did you do with your wife in Thailand? Because I'm sure she didn't just watch you print photos the whole time.
No. We planned it so that she came a week later. So I got to hang out with Basil, just me and him, for a bit, and then when she came in a week later, we did our Bangkok thing, did the sightseeing, and then also we met up with Basil and his wife as well one time. We had some dinner, and they got to meet and got to see who each of us is talking to digitally, and be like, okay, that's the guy,
Yeah. So you brought up like a lot of when you're traveling in Bali, Thailand, you've brought up, and we talked about somewhere else briefly, you've brought up like the really, Bali with Tiba, like going to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I love, and you said like doing some of the local stuff. That's like a huge passion of mine, because like, if I were to, so you go to Thailand with Basil, you meet Tiba in Bali, right? And you've been able to like create this community, and photographers historically, even like Instagram photographers, have done very, very well for themselves in regards to like enriching their opportunities for travel, because you can call a photographer, even if you've never talked to them before. Like I know like some of my friends have reached out to somebody on Instagram and been like, hey, bro, I'm thinking about going down to Austin, Texas, or Chicago, Illinois, or Bangkok, or Kenya, and like, or Johannesburg, whatever. Like, can I meet you? Can you show me around? I love some of the work that you've done. I want to like get to know the people, get like a local experience myself. And most people would go to Google, type like things to do in Thailand, and then start narrowing it down. And then you get like these heavily promoted concepts. You get like, or maybe these super franchised restaurants, or like the tourist traps, right? Like I want to get to know the people. I want to try like the real street, like traditional street food. Even maybe like contemporary like styles of that street food. That's fine. But like just get to know like those people better. Get to know the locations better. I told you earlier I was like really into backpacking, and like overall, like I'm every day I grow in conviction that like travel is pretty important in this day and age, to like to lower our egos, to understand that there's different thoughts, there's different cultures that are just as valuable as my own, and so when you talked about Bangkok and Bali, it sounds like you're probably more interested in the culture of these places than like the geography of these places. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experience in regards to like why, what is invigorating about that to you?
Yeah. So one story my wife always tells is, when I first met her, it wasn't our first date, you would say. Like it was one of those things where, I saw my wife at a wedding, the first time I saw her, and I didn't make an impression. I tried to make an impression, and it didn't really work. But then later on, my cousin, which, my cousin is her friend as well. So she ended up like hooking us up, and we had like a little like gathering, and it was like maybe like 7 or 8 girls, and she called me over to come and sort of try to schmooze with my now wife. And then one of the things she tells everybody still to this day is that one of the things I asked her as like sort of like an interview question was like, have you traveled much? Like that was one of my, like I was really, it was really important to me that the person I'm with, the person I see myself with forever, has done enough traveling to understand that like our culture or our language or our belief system is not the correct belief system, is not the right one, is not the divine one, where there are so many other cultures and languages and belief systems that have nothing to do with your belief system, and they're working perfectly fine without you.
Right.
That was really important for me, that she understood that like there is no right or wrong, because in our general Arab culture, we believe we are right. We are always right, and everybody else is wrong. That's the general, like, whether we say it or not, but that's sort of the general.
Well, I'm not upset, but yeah. I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. Yeah. So you said there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
And yet, so
I mean, obviously. So
like you have like
universal
TED Talks as well about like toxic beauty standards.
Yes.
So like you clearly have like some beliefs of your own that like there's a distinction between right and wrong, right?
Yes. I'm not talking about that kind of right or wrong. I'm talking about like if you're going to be more specific to in black and white, like which God you pray to, or which metric system, whatever that
right.
is. Like there's like your belief system of like heaven and hell, or whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or whichever ism you subscribe to. Like there is no right one or wrong one, because everybody is doing fine, like without your one. You know what I mean?
So do you think it's okay? Yeah, again, like I'm just talking.
Yeah, cool.
I'm super interested. Do you think it's okay? A lot of people have this understanding that that you've said such a valid point. Like, look over here in this part of the world, like they're not Arabic, they're not American, they're doing fine, right? Like they're not Christian, they're not Muslim, they're doing okay. So like they're doing fine. That's a really interesting way to put that. I still believe that it's okay to like have convictions and beliefs, and like we have, it's okay to have faith in something,
Yeah,
right?
cool, yeah.
So do you think that like even though like do you think everyone needs to have like the same like ideology, that like just a very agnostic outlook, or do you think that there's room for people to like have their specific convictions and beliefs?
I think there's room for everybody, you know, whether you want to be agnostic or have a conviction and a belief system. But I think you'd be really egotistical to think that you are 100% right and there's no way that your belief system might be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I totally
there has
understand.
to be that. There has to be that like a little bit of like humbleness to think that maybe there is a 1% chance that whatever I believe in might be completely off. You know, just that. Like have as much conviction in it as you want, but you know, when you have a conversation with somebody that has a different conviction, if your conviction is 125%, then you're not listening to the other guy. You're just not listening to him.
I feel like, you know, for me to have faith though, like I actually need humility to kind of like give up my idea of like rationality and logic, or my tendencies to like cause destruction or whatever. So like I think that like also having like that surrender is humble, but meanwhile, like I guess for me, and I don't like consider myself egotistical, but I have a very like I come to the conclusion that I have faith, right, in God. So like, but and I have to, because of my belief, like believe that that's like correct. But that being said, like I don't not leave space in the room or not have friends that believe other things, and I don't think that I'm superior to them because I have like differentiating to belief. So I just want to never talk religion or politics, okay? But you know, I definitely like I just really appreciate also like experiencing other religions and cultures. And there's this quote that Mark Twain did. He actually wrote a travel guide, and he says like travel is fatal to bigotry, narrow-mindedness, things of that nature. And he says like, and many of us need it on these accounts. And so I as much as I like agree with like 99% of what you said, I also like appreciate like I do think I'm right. So I'm just going to be honest about that, right? Like about my faith. Like otherwise, why would I pursue that? Why would I like strive for that? So I think it's okay for people to have their beliefs, but leave room for other people's, you know. And I don't think that I'm right that in that like I'll prescribe this to everybody. I think that's an important distinction. But I really do like feel enriched by other people's like diversity. I think like diversity is something to be appreciated and celebrated.
Totally, yeah.
So thanks for sharing that with me. I know that was like pretty like out of pocket and
no, not at all, man. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, thanks. Then so you were in Thailand. I've wanted to go to Thailand for a long time. I talked with Roving Rivera, and he says like, you know, he'd like to probably make his final move, not his final trip necessarily, but his final move to Thailand. He really enjoyed his time out there, enjoyed things like the cost of living. What was your impression of Thailand? Are you going to go back?
I mean, I probably need to go back to see the rest of Thailand. Like I only saw Bangkok basically. Just, you know, time wise, I do need to go see like sort of the island life. But for me, like that feeling I got in Bali, where like I'm like, hey, you know what, this might be somewhere I can you know make a move to when I'm ready to you know to leave the UAE and leave the commercial world and just kind of go and hang out for a little bit. I think Bali's one of those places.
You said, you said one time in the UAE, I think a lot of people want to go there, right?
Yeah, totally.
You called it very corporate. What would you do if, let's say I were to visit you and you had all the time in the world to kind of like, or you wanted to help me like visit, right? Yeah. And we had like 4 days. What would you have me go do out there?
So Dubai is like split into two, right? There's the new Dubai and the old Dubai. Most of the stuff that you'll see that people have you do is in new Dubai, where it's like, the party scene, the shiny buildings, the nice restaurants and stuff like that. And then you cross this almost border-like thing to the old Dubai, and it's like a whole other world. You see the spices, the spice market, the gold souk, the little hole in the wall restaurants and stuff like that. So I think we'd spend like a good like 2 days or 3 days in that spot. Especially if you're into like the arts, like there's a lot to consume around there, and like the history of Dubai is there as well, like where the first sort of village, city, the port, all these things are there. And then you can come back and cross and see all the shiny buildings and the malls and the nightclubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. Yeah. Like the sort of disenfranchised, right? Like I don't even want to just say the word mainstream, but just like a lot of the world is becoming the same.
Exactly.
And that may be a good thing, but I think that there's some sorrowful things that come along with that, right? So it's important to that's another reason why artists are so important. Like you guys are documenting every day some aspect of thought, ideal, culture, or like circumstance or something, right? Whether you're a photographer, artist, sculptor, that's why museums are really important. You guys have like a lot, you already had a lot going on, like as, let's just say artists as a group of people. Like, and I don't want to say responsibility, but like at the end of the day, like artists and historians are singularly or in plurality, like the documentarians through like ages, right? Like that's how we documented everything. Now you guys got Web3 on your shoulders. Like you guys are the harbingers of this technology. It was developed.
That's true.
And now you guys are forcing that adoption. You guys are bringing that at the forefront to people. And in 2-3 years, it's going to look totally different, right? Like, I actually can't share this API that we're going to develop, but like, that's only possible because artists have gotten us to a point of adoption that we're at today.
Yeah.
So, I just like that's why I appreciate art, and that's been a result of the NFT space. I think over the last 6 months, my appreciation for art has gone to a whole new level, and I keep saying like artists are the harbingers of progress. So I'm like, and I completely came up with, like, I coined that. So nice. Copyright, but I want it on my gravestone.
Yeah.
Artists are the harbingers of progress. Yeah, that should be like Web3's slogan, man. You got all these crypto bros. Our only hope is that like you guys continue to compel people to join the space, right?
Yeah.
That's it. So that's it. And that's why as a collector, we should be featuring your guys' stuff and not just let it hide in our wallets.
Thanks, man.
Do these spatial galleries, hold events, talk about it after you've collected it. Do a podcast. Like, I just want to talk with you, man. I've really enjoyed talking with you, but I also enjoyed like the opportunity to share your work. We didn't even get into the AR portion, and people are just going to have to see it for themselves.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Just download the Art of Vibe and point to, any still image on Foundation, and it'll start to move. I guess they already move on Foundation. You got to find them on my website, I guess, and find a still image of that and then point to it, and it'll move for you.
So those platinum prints, are those going to collectors?
Yeah. If you grab the NFT, if you grab the NFT from that one collection that says platinum prints on it, you get the platinum print.
And then you aim your phone at the print.
Yeah.
And it starts to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. I think, you know, there's a few artists like yourself that are really trying to lean into the technology. You know, AR is not specific to Web3, but you're using Web3 technology. You're using like quote unquote Web2 technology.
Yeah.
You're creating like commentaries to very specific set pieces. You're interacting with your collectors and fellow artists. You're collaborating with artists. I really think, Waleed, that like the reason why I don't want to say I'm a fanboy, bro, but you know, I'd rather think of myself as a peer. But at the end of the day, I'm a huge fan of your work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I just think that like you really embody, you know, not everybody needs to be held to this expectation that you need to like control every facet of everything. Like continue just producing and minting, that's fine. But like I think, Waleed, that you're embodying like the entirety of Web3 in regards to technology and philosophy and potential. Like you're just absolutely crushing it. So I really appreciated the opportunity to talk with you.
Thanks, man. I never there's this one thing that it's kind of like almost I don't really talk about it very often, but the reason I got into Web3 was not to just sell art, was to try to use the tech to incorporate into my business. Like that, that was my main thing. The art thing came in later, you know. But before I got into Twitter, before I got into you know selling art, I actually started a project out of a project that I'd already done in the past, where it was just a way to book me, right? Whenever you book me, somebody else gets paid. So what I did was I minted. Let's say, you know, 50 or 60 or 80 images, portraits of people that I'd shot before, and I coded in the royalties to go to the person in the image, every single image. I did that on Solana before you were able to mint on Solana by yourself. I hired a coder to do that for me, where every image is the royalties go to a specific person in the image. And the way you book,
you know, this is a downfall to. Sorry, go ahead. Actually, yeah. I want to touch on that after.
Cool. So when you book me, you have to buy 2 of these NFTs. So I get half the money. The other person in the image gets half the money. So the more I get booked, the more my community gets paid. And that's essentially why I got into Web3, is to use the tech, not to sell the art. I kind of like slowed that down a little bit. One, my wallet got hacked, so I got to restart everything. And then B, I kind of moved into the art side a little bit more. I'm traveled, so I'm taking less bookings. But that was essentially, you know, why I got into this in the first place.
Dude, so you brought up your wallet got hacked. I don't know if it's, well, I remember Space, you know, recently, but also in Web3 terms forever ago, where you did come into a space, and I actually got to ask you about it. That was before like I collected candy lips and stuff. And you know, you handled that situation really well. So again, you're setting a precedent for people to follow. You asked everybody to burn all the NFTs. You replace them on a new smart contract from a new wallet. That's where I learned that if I'm going to be minting work, I should use a wallet that's not going to interact with anything else, because royalties are attached to that.
Yeah.
You know, like that wallet, your wallet, if you're producing something or you have royalties attached to it, you know, you pass that down through generations, because anytime that photo is transacted for now until the end of the blockchain, which is hopefully until the end of time, somebody's going to get that money. You don't have to be alive to collect these royalties. And I know that already exists, but now it's just like so simple. Yeah. All you do is you give your password seed phrase to somebody. So you really don't want your wallet to get compromised. Yeah. In my spatial gallery, the Bite Me photograph, I actually like put a date and a link to the tweet where you announced that your wallet was hacked.
Oh shit.
And like a little bit of a commentary about how this is like a middle finger to like the whole like, I'm still not going to stop, I'm going to keep going, so bite me. Like I actually just put that in the description.
My man, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what that was.
I'm like trying to archive it, like
dude,
historically.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta jump into that gallery, man. I gotta look at that.
Well, it's not, you're actually the only collection in there. I need to like get a move on it because I'm a huge fan of like what a lot of people are doing with spatial. You with Tez Tunas and Tuna Time. That I think that gallery's awesome. A few people put some duplicates in there, so
I'll go look at that. I'll go look at that.
Yeah, but it was just super cool because I was like, oh man, there should be a gallery of all this stuff. And then like you commented like, oh, I already made it. Like, here you go. People can upload all their Tuna Time submissions here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just been fun, dude. And the last like 9 months that I've been in, 10 months that I've been in crypto, NFT space, it's been a blur, but it's also been super rewarding. Like in no other world would I have ever had the opportunity to talk to yourself, Ed, Sebastian, Romana, Ashton. It's just been really phenomenal. So thank you guys for like facilitating the community, producing your art, all that.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having this podcast. And I think generally, I think we're all in the same boat. Where we're like, yo, this space, this NFT world, this Twitter space is just magical for all of us. Like, we've been able to connect with people that are like, no way in a million years outside of a space we would have access to their brains.
Yeah.
So
it's really crazy.
Really, really crazy. Yeah.
How serious were you when you offered me Formula One tickets?
Pretty serious. Yeah. We get them.
Like 60%, 70%.
No, like 100%. Like,
dude. Okay. So one day when that happens, you'll meet Tommy too, because he's a real fan. He's a real F1 fan. I'm a Waleed fan. He's an F1 fan.
Nice. No, a lot of my friends work for. So I live on the island. I live on the island where the Formula One happens, and a lot of my friends work for companies that buy Formula One tickets for like their clients, which they end up not giving them to them. So they just keep for themselves, and then we just got like we don't buy them. It's just like on race day, it's like, hey, we got tickets. You want to go? Kind of thing. So like it happens every single year. So I've been. Is it all this cracked up to be? I've been twice to the races, and I hate it. It's so loud. Like I'd rather watch it on TV because then you get the commentary, you get all the angles, But like when you're there, it's just like. And that's it. And you don't know what's going on. Like, what am I watching? So there's no commentary.
So when you're there, you're still watching the TVs to know what's going on.
Exactly, you need to because you have no idea. So I'd rather not. And it's so loud. Everybody's got earmuffs. It's no good, man. Like I don't recommend you going to the races, but like going to be part of the actual action. And the thing is, the reason we also get tickets is that the after race concerts, the concerts are which are the ones like I'm interested in and I go to. You can't actually buy the concert ticket. You have to buy the race ticket and then go to the concert with the race ticket. So on concert day, like we just have a lot of concert tickets for free because nobody, some people that go to the races don't want to go to concerts or there's something happens and we just end up with like a ton of concert tickets. And, we get to see really cool bands,
That's going to be really interesting when all these, like, ticketed events are NFTs, too. That's going to open a lot of doors, I think. And maybe close some, but I think it'll be, like, an overall benefit.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, it's really hard to say bye to you.
You want to just hang out forever, huh?
Yeah, I can hang out. No, man, I think, like, if I continue, like I'll just start driving this thing downhill, and I think that like we really sustains like this high level of quality. Like you're just so easy to talk to, but or maybe if we don't hang up, I'll just spend the next 20 minutes like complimenting you.
Okay, I guess we're hanging. I don't want to do that. Let's hang up.
yeah. Maybe we can just do it again sometime. Anybody on Twitter Spaces? I haven't looked, but. Thanks for tuning in. Bali, you got anything to say?
No, other than thanks for having this, man. This is really, really cool to actually get to meet you and talk to you and see what you look like and have the body language going on. It's cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Hey, I encourage anybody to try to video chat with your friends on Twitter that you're meeting because it's really cool. This is. Waleed's not a part of Token Travelers, but Token Travelers is putting on a podcast. Maybe one day it'll have a better host than me, but for now, I'm what you get. So thanks for tuning in, and Waleed, I'll stay in touch. Appreciate you.
Cool, man. Take it easy. Thank you, guys.